In today's global economy, there is little room for indigenous languages. English, Mandarin Chinese, and a few other languages are rising to the top, displacing several thousand smaller languages. How do communities cope with lost languages? If they feel that reclaiming a language will connect them with their heritage, how do they achieve this? Many displaced communities who wish to hold on to their languages do so through revitalization and reclamation efforts. Very seldomly will a language like South Australian Kaurna, which died out almost a century ago, undergo reclamation. This is because there is insufficient documentation of many languages. Therefore, reviving a language is a monumental task. Reconstructing a dead language requires time, energy, and patience. Having a linguist on board is essential since existing documentation of the language must be found. Gaps in syntax, grammar, pronunciation, and vocab need to be compared against living linguistic relatives, such as Nukunu for Kaurna or Cree for the American language Wampanoag. Obstacles to reconstructing a language are scarcity of literature or recordings, the language's lack of prestige over the dominant language, a limited or dispersed population who will speak the language, and a lack of public and private spaces to speak that language. Other obstacles include a reluctance to work with linguists, a shortage of trained language teachers who can teach in community and school settings, and a view that the language has no use. Another huge obstacle is the desire to bring back the language exactly as it once was. With so much missing, that's impossible. It seems pointless to revive a language, but there's incentive in trying. First, language and culture are closely tied to one another. Therefore, a language's death ends an entire worldview and severs a community's ties with their past. In Australia, a benefit to language revival is that it can link local place names to the language, which shows cultural continuity that is needed for land reclamation. I'd like to quickly compare the Kaurna revival with another revival effort. Of the 300 or so languages native to North America before colonialism, 165 still exist. 75 of these will die within the next generation. However, one of the original 300 has made a surprising comeback, similar to that of Kaurna. This language is called Wampanoag, an Algonquin language with about 2,000 registered tribal members. Due to disease, warfare, intermarriage, and a loss of land, English became the preferred language and, by 1833, became extinct. After having a series of dreams in which her ancestors were trying to communicate with her in Wampanoag, Jessie Little Doe Baird, who is Mashpee Wampanoag, started the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project in 1993. She was quickly put into contact with Ken Hale, a linguist at MIT who aided in the revival effort. Baird received her PhD in linguistics at MIT in 2000. Much of the vocab and grammar was learned through MIT's copy of the Eliot Indian Bible, which was translated to Wampanoag in 1663 from the King James Bible. Other documents included letters, petitions, and religious tracts from John Eliot, a minister who worked in the Massachusetts Bay Colony starting in 1631. Comparison with closely related Algonquin languages helped fill in some of the gaps. Today, the project has 2 credentialed linguists, 15 certified teachers, at least 15 fluent speakers, and 500 students. Baird's daughter is the first native speaker of Wampanoag in over 150 years. Additionally, the project is looking at creating a Wampanoag immersion school so children can learn their language and have a dedicated place to speak Wampanoag. Turning back to Kaurna, it is a Pama-Nyungan language, a family that may have had close to 300 languages before European colonization. Of those, roughly 145 are left, and only 15 are healthy. Kaurna is closely related to Nurunga, Nukunu, and Ngajuri. Geographically, the language and its people can be traced to the Adelaide Plain in South Australia. Kaurna was documented in the 19th and early 20th centuries by missionaries who recorded about 4,000 words. Additionally, they wrote a sketch on grammar that included 200 example sentences that preserved word order. Due to similar issues that led to the decline of Wampanoag, Kaurna was extinct by 1929. Despite this late death, no recordings of Kaurna exist. The prelude to the revival began when government officials and other organizations started to ask questions about local place names. Linguist Rob Amory of the University of Adelaide began working closely with the Kaurna population once he realized that many local place names came from Kaurna. In 1990, Amory and the Kaurna people created a songbook, which became immensely popular with parents and their young children. Due to this increased interest in the language, Amory and the community began to revive the language and to introduce it into the local Kaurna Plains School in 1992. This was expanded in 1994 at the primary and tertiary levels at other schools near Adelaide. Because no sound recordings of kana were made, pronunciation has been based off Nakunu, which shares a large amount of words with kana. When a lexical gap is discovered, it is often filled with a Nakunu word, unless the community opts for a different term. Despite this, some terms are completely extinct, such as the word for platypus. Amory and the university and the Kana people created the Kanawara Pintianthi, or KWP, in 2002. The KWP's name translates to Creating Kana Language, which is exactly what the organization does. They hold regular meetings to assess the needs of the community, translate place names when requested, and discuss the ongoing status of Kana reclamation. Though there was some hesitation in including linguists in the process, Amory, who is not Aboriginal, suggests that there is a need for them in the reclamation process since they can develop working orthographies, make historical documents accessible, create learning materials, help craft new words such as internet, and teach their skills to the community. This last point is certainly needed at this point since there are only a handful of competent certified teachers for Kana. This greatly impacts the KWP's ability to teach the language to the rest of the community, especially within public education systems. Another obvious obstruction to teaching Kana is the ever-present lack of funding for programs. Despite the many difficulties faced by Kana speakers, they are also beginning to teach their children their heritage language as a first language. What Kana and Wampanoag demonstrate is that with patience, effort, collaboration between linguists and the community, and sheer determination, a language can be revived.